The ship was burning. Kang Tae-ho could smell the smoke filling the corridor as he dragged himself toward the escape pods. His leg was bleeding badly, and every step sent pain shooting through his body. Behind him, he could hear the screams of his crew members as the alien weapons tore through the hull. They had been on a simple mission, just a patrol near the outer rim, checking for enemy activity. Nobody expected an ambush. Nobody expected 20 Valori warships to appear from behind the asteroid field like ghosts. Tae-ho reached the escape pod door and slammed his hand against the panel. It did not open. The power was dead. He turned around and saw 3 of his crew members running toward him. Lieutenant Baek was carrying an injured soldier on his back. Ensign Cho was firing her weapon at something behind them. "Sir, we need to go," Baek shouted. "The pods are dead," Tae-ho said. His voice was calm. It was always calm, even when everything was falling apart. "We make our stand here." They fought. They fought with everything they had. But the Valori soldiers kept coming. They were tall, almost 7 feet, with pale blue skin and eyes that glowed like cold stars. Their armor absorbed most of the human weapons fire. One by one, Tae-ho watched his people fall. Baek died protecting the injured soldier. Cho died with her finger still on the trigger. In the end, only Tae-ho remained, standing in a pile of spent ammunition, his weapon empty. A Valori commander approached him. The alien looked at Tae-ho with something like curiosity. "You are the last one," the commander said in broken human language. "You will come with us." Tae-ho said nothing. He dropped his empty weapon and let them take him. The journey to Valoria Prime took 3 days. They kept Tae-ho in a small cell with no windows. They gave him food and water. But nobody spoke to him. He spent the time thinking about his crew, about their families back on Earth who would receive letters telling them their loved ones were never coming home. He also thought about escape. He studied the guards, counted their numbers, noted when they changed shifts. But he was patient. He knew that rushing would only get him killed. On the 3rd day, the ship landed. They put energy shackles on his wrists and led him through a massive city. The buildings were tall and beautiful, made of some white stone that seemed to glow in the sunlight. The Valori people stopped to stare at him as he passed. Most of them looked at him with hatred. Some looked at him with fear. A few looked at him with something else, something like hope. They brought him to a palace that rose above the city like a mountain. Inside, the halls were filled with art and sculptures, with fountains that flowed with silver water. Guards stood at every corner, watching him with their glowing eyes. Finally, they reached the throne room. Queen Alara sat on a throne made of crystal. She was old, but her eyes were sharp and intelligent. Her skin was darker blue than the others, and she wore a crown of twisted metal that seemed to float above her head. Around her stood advisors and generals, all watching Tae-ho like he was an animal brought for inspection. "So, this is a human," the queen said. Her voice was cold and powerful. "I expected something more impressive." Tae-ho stood straight. He did not bow. He did not look away. "I am Kang Tae-ho," he said. "Lieutenant Commander of the Earth Defense Fleet. Serial number 77329. That is all you will get from me." The queen smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "I do not want your military secrets, human. I want something far more valuable." She stood from her throne and walked toward him. Up close, Tae-ho could see that she was tired. There were lines on her face that spoke of many sleepless nights, of worries that no crown could solve. "My people are dying," she said. "Not from war, not from disease. We are simply fading. Each generation is weaker than the last. Our children are born sick. Our scientists have tried everything, but nothing works." Tae-ho listened but said nothing. "We have studied your species for many years," the queen continued. "You are remarkable creatures. Your planet tried to kill you with ice ages, with volcanoes, with plagues, and yet you survived. You adapted, you grew stronger." She stopped directly in front of him. "Your genetics hold the key to saving my people. I will not help you create weapons," Tae-ho said. The queen laughed. I do not want weapons. I want children. She waved her hand, and a door opened at the side of the throne room. A young Valori woman entered. She was beautiful in the way that a winter storm is beautiful, cold and dangerous and impossible to ignore. Her hair was silver, her eyes were bright gold, and she walked like someone who had never been afraid of anything in her life. "This is my daughter," the queen said. "Princess Nalia. You will marry her. Your children will carry both human strength and Valori blood. They will save my empire." Teho looked at the princess. She looked back at him with an expression of pure disgust. "And if I refuse?" Teho asked. The queen's smile disappeared. "There is a human colony on the planet you call Kepler 442b. 200,000 of your people live there. If you refuse, I will order my fleet to burn it to ash. Every man, woman, and child will die. And then I will find another human and make the same offer." The throne room was silent. The guards watched. The advisors watched. Princess Nalia watched. Teho thought about the colony. He thought about 200,000 innocent people who had no idea their lives depended on his answer. He thought about his duty as a soldier, about his loyalty to Earth. He also thought about something else. He was inside the enemy's palace. He was being given access to their royal family, their secrets, their weaknesses. A smart man could do a lot with that kind of access. "I will need time to consider," he said. "You have until tomorrow morning," the queen replied. "Take him to the guest quarters. Treat him well. He may be the father of my grandchildren." As the guards led him away, Teho glanced back at Princess Nalia. She was still staring at him. But now there was something different in her eyes. Not just disgust. Curiosity. He had one night to figure out how to turn this trap into an opportunity. The game had just begun. Princess Nalia threw a vase against the wall. It shattered into 1,000 pieces, scattering across the floor of her private chamber like fallen stars. "How dare she?" Nalia screamed at no one. "How dare she treat me like livestock?" Her handmaiden, a quiet old Valori named Mira, stood in the corner and said nothing. She had served Nalia since the princess was a child. She knew when to speak and when to stay silent. Nalia paced back and forth, her silver hair flying behind her. She had spent her entire life preparing to lead her people. She had studied politics, diplomacy, military strategy. She had argued for peace with the humans when everyone else wanted war. She had believed that the Valori could find another way to survive. And now, her mother wanted her to breed with an alien like some animal in a farm. "I will not do it," Nalia said. "I will refuse." "If you refuse," Mira said quietly, "your mother will find another way. She always does." Nalia stopped pacing. She knew Mira was right. Queen Ilara was not a cruel woman, but she was a desperate one. She had watched her people grow weaker for 50 years. She had buried 2 of her own children who died before reaching adulthood. She would do anything to save the Valori, even sacrifice her own daughter's happiness. "What do you know about humans?" Nalia asked. Mira thought for a moment. "They are small, weak. They live short lives, barely 100 years. They fight among themselves constantly. Their planet is covered in water and dirt." She paused. "But they are also stubborn. They do not give up easily. Our generals have been saying for years that the war should have ended long ago, but the humans keep fighting." Nalia remembered the human in the throne room. He had been shorter than her, his skin a strange brown color, his eyes dark and unreadable. He had stood before the most powerful woman in the galaxy with chains on his wrists, and he had not looked afraid. "I want to speak with him," Nalia said. Mira raised an eyebrow. "Is that wise? Probably not. But if I am going to be forced into this marriage, I should at least know what kind of creature I am marrying." The guards led her into Teho's quarters without question. He was sitting by the window, looking out at the city. When she entered, he turned to face her but did not stand. This was an insult in Valori culture. But Nalia found that she did not care. "Princess," he said. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "I did not expect to see you so soon. I came to look at my future husband. she said coldly. To see what kind of monster my mother has chosen for me. Taeho smiled slightly. And what do you see? Nalia studied him. He was not impressive physically. His body was small and soft compared to a Valori warrior. He had no claws, no natural weapons, no armor. By all logic, humans should have been easy to defeat. I see a small, weak creature from a small, weak planet, she said. I see someone who should be begging for his life but instead sits there smiling. I do not understand your species. That is fair, Taeho said. I do not understand your species either. You have technology that makes ours look like children's toys. You have ships that can cross the galaxy in days. You have been traveling between stars for 10,000 years. He tilted his head. And yet you are dying, and we are not. Strange, isn't it? Nalia felt anger rise in her chest. But also something else. Interest. This human was not stupid. Our scientists believe it is a genetic problem, she said, though she was not sure why she was explaining anything to him. Something in our blood is breaking down. Each generation passes the damage to the next. And you think human genes will fix that? My mother thinks so. Taeho nodded slowly. And what do you think? Nobody had ever asked Nalia that question. Not her mother. Not her advisors. Not the scientists who had examined her like she was a specimen in a laboratory. She was a princess. Her opinions on such matters were not considered important. I think, she said carefully, that forcing two species together through threats and violence is not the way to build a future. Taeho looked at her with new respect. Then, we agree. On something. They talked for hours. Nalia had not planned to stay so long, but the human was interesting. He asked questions about Valori art, about their music, about their history. He listened when she spoke and remembered what she said. When she asked him about Earth, he described oceans so vast you could not see the other side, mountains that touched the clouds, forests filled with millions of different creatures. Your planet sounds chaotic, Nalia said. It is, Taeho agreed. That is why we are the way we are. We learn to adapt or die. We learn to fight against everything. Nature, disease, each other. We never stop fighting. That sounds exhausting. It is. But it also makes us strong. When Nalia finally left, she felt confused. She had come expecting to meet a monster. Instead, she had met a man, a strange, alien man. But a man nonetheless, someone who thought deeply, who cared about his people, who treated her with dignity even though she was technically his enemy. She found High General Torvak waiting for her outside the humans' quarters. He was a tall, scarred warrior who had served her mother for decades. Nalia had never liked him. There was something cold in his eyes, something hungry. Princess, he said with a bow that was not quite respectful enough. I hope the human did not offend you. He was adequate. Torvak smiled, and it was not a pleasant smile. Your mother's plan is madness, you know. Mixing royal blood with these primitives. It will destroy everything our ancestors built. My mother's decisions are not your concern, General. Everything about this empire is my concern. He leaned closer. There are many who agree with me, Princess. Many who believe the Queen has lost her way. When the time comes, you should remember who your true friends are. He walked away before Nalia could respond. That night, she lay in her bed and stared at the ceiling. She thought about the human's words, about Torvak's warning, about her mother's desperation. She thought about the war that had killed millions on both sides, about the disease that was slowly killing her people from within, and she thought about the way Taeho had looked at her, not with lust or fear or hatred, but with something that might have been understanding. Something was going to change. She could feel it in her bones. She just did not know yet if that change would save her people or destroy them. The wedding was set for 30 days from now. 30 days of preparation, of ceremonies, of being poked and examined by Valori scientists who wanted to understand every part of human biology. Taeho bore it all with patience. They moved him to better quarters, a large room with soft beds, beautiful art, and windows that overlooked the palace gardens. But the door was still locked from the outside. The guards still watched his every move. A golden cage was still a cage. The scientists came every morning. They took his blood, scanned his body, asked him endless questions about human biology. Most of them treated him like an object, something to be studied, and then discarded. But one scientist was different. His name was Sorel. He was old, even by Valori standards, with deep wrinkles around his eyes and a gentle way of speaking. He had been studying humans for decades, ever since the first contact between their species. "You know," Sorel said one day while examining Tejo's blood under a strange machine, "your species should not exist." "Thank you," Tejo said dryly. Sorel laughed. "I mean it as a compliment. Look at your planet's history. Ice ages that lasted thousands of years. Volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun. Diseases that killed half your population. Asteroid impacts. Floods. Fires." He shook his head in amazement. "Any one of these should have ended your species. Most species in the galaxy would have died. But humans? You just kept going." "We are stubborn," Tejo agreed. "It is more than stubbornness. There is something in your genetics. Something we do not fully understand. Your bodies heal faster than they should. Your immune systems adapt to new threats within generations. You can survive in almost any environment." Sorel looked at him with something like wonder. "Your species is only 200,000 years old. We are 10 million years old, and yet you may outlast us." Tejo was quiet for a moment. "Is that why the Queen wants me to marry her daughter? To steal whatever makes us survive? The Queen wants to save her people. Can you blame her for that?" "I can blame her for threatening to kill 200,000 innocent humans if I refuse." Sorel sighed. "Yes, that was unfortunate. But you must understand. She is desperate. We all are. I have watched friends die, children die, knowing that each generation will be weaker than the last. Imagine knowing that your entire species is walking toward extinction, and there is nothing you can do to stop it." Tejo thought about this. He had been trained to see the Valori as enemies, as monsters who attacked human colonies without mercy. But the more he learned, the more he understood that they were just people who were afraid, people who were dying, people who would do anything to survive, just like humans. The days passed. Nalia visited him often now. Sometimes they talked for hours about their worlds, their histories, their hopes and fears. Sometimes they just sat in comfortable silence, watching the strange birds fly past the window. "Why did your people attack us?" Tejo asked one evening. "We had done nothing to you." Nalia looked uncomfortable. "It was Torvak's idea. He convinced my mother that humans were a threat, that you would eventually grow powerful enough to challenge us. He said it was better to destroy you now while you were still weak." "And your mother believed him?" "My mother was afraid. Fear makes people do terrible things." Tejo nodded slowly. "What do you believe?" "I believe," Nalia said carefully, "that we could have been friends. If we had tried to understand each other instead of fighting." She looked at him. "I argued against the war. Nobody listened to me. They should have." She smiled slightly. It was the first time he had seen her smile. It changed her face, made her look younger, softer. While Nalia visited him openly, Tejo was busy with his secret work. Sorel, whether he knew it or not, had given Tejo valuable information about the palace's communication systems. The old scientist loved to talk, and Tejo was an excellent listener. At night, when the guards thought he was sleeping, Tejo worked. He had noticed that the palace's communication arrays were connected to a central system in the gardens. During his walks, which were carefully supervised but still gave him some freedom, he had studied the system, memorized its layout, identified its weaknesses. He could not escape. That was clear. The palace was too heavily guarded, and he had nowhere to go even if he did escape. But he could do something else. He could send a message. The idea had come to him slowly. What if Earth knew the truth about the Valori? What if they knew that the Empire was dying? that the queen was desperate for peace, that there was a faction led by Torvak who wanted eternal war. This information could change everything, but to send a message, he needed equipment. He needed access to the communication arrays. And he needed an ally inside the palace. He thought about Sorel. The old scientist was kind, but his loyalty to the queen was absolute. He would not help Tejo betray his people. He thought about Nalia. She wanted peace. She had said so many times. But could he trust her? She was still the enemy princess, still the woman he was being forced to marry. "You are thinking about something," Nalia said during one of their visits. "You get a certain look in your eyes when you are planning." Tejo smiled, just thinking about the wedding. "Liar," she did not sound angry. "You are always planning something." "I can see it. Would you be upset if I was?" Nalia was quiet for a long moment. "That depends on what you are planning." "What if I told you," Tejo said slowly, "that I might have a way to end this war? Not through fighting, not through this forced marriage, but through understanding?" Nalia's golden eyes narrowed. "I would say that you are either very clever or very foolish. Probably both." She stood up and walked to the window. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. "Torvak is gathering support among the military. He thinks my mother is weak. He thinks this marriage is a betrayal of our people." She turned to face him. "If you are planning something, you should know that Torvak is planning something too, and his plans usually involve blood." Tejo felt a chill run down his spine. "How much time do we have?" "I do not know." "Days? Weeks?" She walked to the door, then stopped. "Whatever you are planning, human, you should do it quickly." She left. Tejo sat alone in his room as night fell. He had less time than he thought. Torvak was making his move, and when he did, everything would change. He needed to act, he needed to be ready, and he needed to decide if he could trust a princess who might be his greatest ally or his greatest enemy. The night before the wedding, the palace burned. Tejo woke to the sound of explosions. The walls shook. Alarms screamed through the corridors. Through his window, he could see smoke rising from the eastern wing of the palace. Flames licking at the white stone. His door burst open. 2 guards rushed in, but they were not his usual guards. Their armor was marked with a red symbol he did not recognize. "The human dies tonight," one of them said, raising his weapon. Tejo moved. Humans were not as strong as the Valori. They were not as fast. But they were creative. And Tejo had spent weeks studying these rooms, these guards, these weapons. He threw himself sideways as the first shot burned through the air where his head had been. He grabbed a metal chair and swung it at the first guard's weapon arm. The guard screamed as his arm broke. Tejo took his weapon and shot the second guard before he could react. Both guards fell. Tejo stood over them, breathing hard, the alien weapon feeling strange in his hands. More explosions outside, more screaming. The coup had begun. Tejo ran. The corridors were chaos. Guards fought guards. Servants ran in panic. Bodies lay on the beautiful floors. Tejo moved through the shadows, avoiding the fighting when he could, fighting when he could not. He had one goal. Find Nalia. He found her in the library, surrounded by 3 of Torvak's soldiers. She was fighting them with a blade, some kind of traditional Valori weapon that glowed with blue light. She was good, but she was outnumbered. Tejo did not hesitate. He shot one soldier in the back. Nalia killed another with a thrust through the chest. The third turned to face Tejo, and Nalia cut him down from behind. "Human," she said, breathing hard. Her silver hair was wild, her face splashed with blue blood. "I was coming to free you. I freed myself." He looked at the bodies. "What is happening?" "Torvak has made his move. His soldiers control the outer palace, the defense grid, the communications. My mother." Her voice broke. "I do not know if she is alive. Then we find her." They moved through the palace together. Nalia knew every corridor, every secret passage, every hidden door. Tejo covered her back, using the alien weapon with growing skill. The Valori soldiers they encountered expected a weak human prisoner. They did not expect a fighter. In one corridor, they faced 5 soldiers. Tejo ran straight at them, sliding under their shots, getting inside their reach, where their large bodies became a disadvantage. He fought dirty, going for eyes, throats, joints. 2 soldiers died before they understood what was happening. Nalia killed the other 3. "You fight strangely," she said afterward. "Humans cannot match you in strength," Tejo explained. "So we learned to fight differently. Speed. Surprise. Using your strength against you." He checked his weapon's power. "We had millions of years to perfect the art of killing things bigger than us." They found Queen Alara in the throne room. She was wounded. Blue blood stained her robes, and she leaned against her crystal throne for support. Around her lay the bodies of her personal guards, all dead. But the queen herself still lived, still held a weapon in her hand, still looked at Torvak's approaching soldiers with defiance in her eyes. "Mother," Nalia cried. "Stay back," the queen said. "There are too many of them." Tejo counted quickly. 20 soldiers surrounded the throne, with more coming through the doors. They were definitely outnumbered. But he noticed something else. The soldiers were hesitating. They did not want to kill their queen. Even now, even as traitors, they were afraid of what they were doing. "They are scared," Tejo said quietly to Nalia. "Look at them." Nalia saw it too. "They are waiting for Torvak. Without his orders, they will not act." As if summoned by his name, Torvak entered the throne room. He was huge, even by Valori standards, his body covered in scars from 100 battles. He walked slowly, confidently, like a man who had already won. "My queen," he said with a mocking bow. "Your reign is over. Your weakness has doomed our people. This marriage to a human, this pollution of royal blood, I cannot allow it." "You speak of saving our people," the queen said, "while you burn my palace and kill my guards. Necessary sacrifices. When I am done, the Valori will be pure again. We will find another way to survive, or we will die with honor, as warriors, not as the mongrel descendants of human animals." He turned to look at Tejo. "Ah, the human. I had hoped you would be dead by now." He smiled. "No matter. You will die here, in front of your would-be wife, and then I will burn your colony as promised. Every human in the galaxy will learn what happens when they pollute Valori blood." Tejo felt Nalia tense beside him. He put a hand on her arm. "Wait," he said softly. "Not yet." Torvak laughed. "The human wants to delay his death. How predictable." He raised his weapon. "Goodbye, Kang Tejo." "Before you kill me," Tejo said, "answer one question." Torvak paused, amused. What question could matter now? "You said the Valori will find another way to survive. What way?" "Your scientists have searched for centuries. They found nothing." Tejo looked at the soldiers around him. "He is not saving you. He is leading you to extinction with your eyes open." Some of the soldiers shifted uncomfortably. Torvak's smile faded. "Silence, human. The queen's plan might have worked. Maybe not through forced marriage, maybe through cooperation, through shared research, through actually working together." Tejo raised his voice so everyone could hear. "But Torvak does not want to save you. He wants to rule you. And he does not care if you all die, as long as he dies on top." Torvak roared and charged. But Nalia was faster. She met him in the center of the room, her blade clashing against his. They fought like storms, their weapons sending sparks flying with each impact. Nalia was skilled, but Torvak was stronger, more experienced. He began to push her back. Tejo saw his chance. While everyone watched the fight, he moved. He ran along the edge of the room, staying in the shadows. He reached the queen's side. "Can you walk?" he asked. She looked at him with surprise. "You came back for me? I threatened to destroy your people, and I am choosing to help you anyway. That is the difference between us." "Yes, but Nalia is buying us time. We need to use it." Together, they moved toward a hidden door behind the throne. The soldiers were watching the fight, mesmerized by the battle between the princess and the general. Nalia was losing. Torvak had cut her arm, her leg. Blood dripped from a wound on her face. But she did not stop fighting. She would not stop. "I need to help her," Tejo said. "If you go back, you will die," the queen said. "Maybe." He pressed a weapon into her hands. "Get somewhere safe. Find allies. Rally whoever is still loyal." "Why would you do this? Why would you risk your life for us?" Tejo looked at Nalia, still fighting, still refusing to surrender. "Because she believed in something better," he said. "And so do I." He ran back into the throne room. Tejo hit Torvak from behind with everything he had. It was not enough to hurt. The general humans were simply not strong enough for that. But it was enough to distract him for one critical second. Nalia used that second to drive her blade into Torvak's shoulder. The general screamed in rage and pain. He swung his arm and sent Tejo flying across the room. Tejo hit a pillar and felt something crack in his chest. Pain exploded through his body. But Torvak was wounded now. Blue blood poured from his shoulder. His weapon arm hung uselessly at his side. "Retreat!" one of the soldiers shouted. "The general is hurt!" Torvak tried to protest, but his soldiers grabbed him and dragged him toward the doors. They had seen the queen escape. They had seen their invincible general brought low by a princess and a human. Their confidence was broken. In moments, they were gone. Nalia ran to Tejo, falling to her knees beside him. "You fool," she said. "You stupid, brave fool. Why did you come back? Seemed like the right thing to do." Tejo tried to sit up and gasped in pain. "I think he broke my ribs." "You saved my mother's life. She is still going to be angry about the whole threatening my colony thing." He managed a weak smile. "But we can discuss that later." They found a safe room deep in the palace, protected by hidden doors that Torvak's soldiers did not know about. Queen Ilara was there, along with Sorrel the scientist and a dozen loyal guards who had escaped the fighting. The queen looked at Tejo with new eyes. "You could have escaped," she said. "In the chaos, you could have tried to run. Instead, you came back for us. For my daughter. Running would not have helped. Torvak controls your defense grid. He controls your communications. Even if I escaped the palace, I would have nowhere to go." Tejo paused. "Besides, I made a promise." "What promise?" "To end this war. Not through fighting, not through forced marriage, but through understanding." He looked at the queen directly. "I can contact Earth. I can tell them the truth about your people, that you are dying, that you need help, that there is a faction that wants peace. I can change everything." The room went silent. "How?" the queen asked. Tejo explained. For weeks, he had been studying the palace's communication systems. With Sorrel's accidental help, he had learned how they worked, how they connected to the larger network. The main system was now under Torvak's control, but there was a backup array in the Western Gardens, old technology that nobody used anymore but was still functional. "I can modify it to send a single burst transmission," Tejo said. "One message, just a few seconds long. But it would reach across the galaxy. It would reach Earth." "And what would you tell them?" the queen asked. "Everything. The truth about your genetic problem. The queen who wanted peace. The general who wants eternal war. The coordinates of this planet." He paused. "And a request for help. You would bring your military here? To our home world? I would bring people who can make decisions. People who can see that this war does not have to continue." Tejo met her eyes. "You threatened my colony to force me into this marriage. But what if there was another way? What if instead of threats and force, our species actually worked together?" The queen was quiet for a long moment. Then she laughed, a tired, bitter laugh. "You are either very clever or very foolish." "That is what your daughter said." Nalia stepped forward. "Mother, he is right. Torvak's way will lead to our extinction. War with the humans will drain what little strength we have left. But if we can make peace, if human scientists can work with ours, maybe there is hope. And if the human fleet comes here to conquer us instead, Then we will die fighting, Teho said simply. But at least we will have tried something different. At least we will have given peace a chance. The queen studied him. Teho could see her thinking, weighing options, calculating risks. She was a ruler who had led her people through decades of decline. She had made hard choices before. Do it, she said finally. Send your message. They moved through the palace using secret passages that only the royal family knew. The fighting had spread throughout the city. They could hear weapons fire in the distance, see smoke rising from burning buildings. Torvak was consolidating his control, but there was still resistance, still Valori who refused to follow a traitor. The western gardens were quiet. The old communication array stood in the center of a courtyard filled with alien flowers. It looked ancient, covered in vines, forgotten by everyone. Will it work? Nalia asked. Only one way to find out. Teho approached the array and began working on the control panel. The technology was strange, but technology followed certain universal rules. Power was power. Signals were signals. He had studied enough Valori systems to understand the basics. Sorel helped him, translating when necessary, offering suggestions. The old scientist seemed almost excited. This is history, he muttered. Whatever happens, this moment will be remembered. Assuming we survive to remember it, Teho said. It took 2 hours. 2 hours of delicate work while guards watched the entrances, while the sounds of battle grew closer. Finally, Teho stepped back from the control panel. It is ready. Nalia stood beside him. Her wounds had been bandaged, but she still looked pale, tired. What happens now? Now I send the message. Teho hesitated. Once I do this, everything changes. Torvak will know where we are. He will send soldiers. We might not survive long enough to see if the message worked. Then we make sure it works. Nalia took his hand. It was the first time she had touched him intentionally, without violence or urgency. Her skin was cool against his. Send it. Teho entered the final command. The array hummed to life. Lights flickered across its surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a beam of energy shot into the sky, visible for miles. A beacon that everyone in the city would see. The message is sent, Teho said quietly. In the distance, they heard alarms. Torvak's soldiers were coming. How long until Earth receives it? The Queen asked. The signal travels faster than light, but it still takes time. Hours at least. Maybe a day. And how long until Torvak's forces arrive? Teho looked toward the sound of approaching footsteps. Minutes. The Queen straightened her shoulders. Despite her wounds, despite everything, she still looked like a queen. Then we hold this position. We give your message time to reach its destination. Nalia drew her blade. The guards formed a defensive line. Sorel picked up a fallen weapon, his hands trembling but determined. Teho checked his own weapon's power. Nearly empty. He looked at Nalia. If we do not survive this, he said, I want you to know you were not what I expected. She smiled slightly. Neither were you, human. The first of Torvak's soldiers appeared at the edge of the garden. Dozens of them. Hundreds. Far more than they could fight. Teho raised his weapon, and then, the sky split open. Ships emerged from the clouds, human ships. The familiar shapes of Earth destroyers and cruisers. Their weapons glowing, their engines roaring. At their head was a massive command vessel bearing the symbol of the 7th Fleet. Admiral Park Yuna had arrived. Admiral Park Yuna was 53 years old. She had fought the Valori for 20 years, lost ships and soldiers beyond counting, and watched friends die in the cold emptiness of space. When Teho's message reached her command station, she did not believe it at first. A Valori queen who wanted peace, a dying empire that needed help. A human soldier inside the enemy palace, asking not for rescue but for intervention. Her officers told her it was a trap. They told her to ignore the message, to continue the war as planned. Earth's colonies were growing stronger every year. Given enough time, humanity might actually win this war. But Yuna had seen Taeho grow up. She had recruited him herself, trained him, watched him become one of the finest officers in the fleet. If Taeho said there was a chance for peace, then there was a chance for peace. She made the jump to Valoria Prime with her entire fleet. Now her ships filled the sky above the alien capital, and she had a decision to make. "Admiral," her weapons officer reported, "Valori defense grid is active. They are targeting our ships. Torvak's forces control the grid." Yuna said, "The Queen's forces are on our side. How do we tell them apart? We do not fire on anyone unless fired upon, and we target weapon systems only. Disable, do not destroy." Her officers exchanged confused glances. This was not how war was supposed to work. "Admiral, with respect, I gave an order. Follow it." The battle began. Torvak's loyalists controlled the orbital defenses, massive weapons platforms that could destroy ships with a single shot. But human ships were small and fast, designed to survive against superior firepower. They danced between the energy beams, getting close enough to target specific systems. The 7th Fleet did not fight to kill. They fought to disable. Engines were destroyed, leaving ships dead in space but their crews alive. Weapons were targeted, leaving platforms defenseless but intact. It was harder than simply destroying everything. But Yuna had made her choice. In the palace gardens below, Taeho watched the battle unfold. Torvak's soldiers had stopped advancing. They stared at the sky in disbelief as human ships tore through their defenses without destroying a single Valori vessel. It was impossible. It went against everything they knew about war. "They are not killing anyone," Nalia whispered. "Why are they not killing anyone?" "Because I asked them not to," Taeho said. Queen Ilara stepped forward. She activated her personal communicator, broadcasting on all frequencies. Her voice echoed across the city, across the planet, reaching every Valori soldier and citizen. "People of Valoria," she said, "I am your queen. General Torvak has betrayed our empire. He has tried to kill me, to seize power for himself. The human ships you see above us are not invaders, they are allies. They have come not to conquer but to help." Static crackled. Then Torvak's voice responded, "The Queen is a traitor. She has sold our people to the humans. Do not listen to her lies." "Is it a lie that our people are dying?" the Queen shot back. "Is it a lie that every generation is weaker than the last? Is it a lie that you have no solution except war and death?" Silence. "The humans offered us something we never gave them a chance. A chance to work together, to share knowledge, to find a solution that saves both our peoples." The Queen's voice softened. "I know you are afraid. I am afraid too. But fear cannot guide us anymore. We must choose hope." In the city, soldiers began lowering their weapons. Not all of them, but enough. Torvak's support was cracking. The general himself had retreated to the defense grid control center. He stood before the main console, his wounded arm hanging useless, his face twisted with rage. Around him stood his most loyal officers, the ones who truly believed in his cause. "Fire everything," Torvak ordered. "Destroy the human fleet." His weapons officer hesitated. "General, if we do that, the humans will retaliate. Millions of our people could die. They are already dead. Dead from weakness, from the Queen's corruption, from the human disease." Torvak slammed his good hand on the console. "Fire." The officer did not move. "I said fire." "No." Torvak stared at him. "You dare refuse me? I refuse to murder my own people." The officer stepped back from his console. "The Queen is right. We have no future in war. Maybe we have no future at all, but I will not spend my last days killing children because you cannot accept defeat." Other officers stepped back. They removed their weapons and placed them on the ground. One by one, Torvak's loyalists abandoned him. "Cowards," Torvak growled. "All of you. Traitors and cowards." He reached for the firing controls himself and found a blade at his throat. Lieutenant Colonel Mira, Nalia's handmaiden, stood behind him. In her hand was a knife that had been hidden for this moment. You thought I was just a servant, she said quietly. You thought I was harmless. That is always the mistake people make. Torvak was arrested. His remaining supporters surrendered within hours. The battle was over. Admiral Yuna landed her shuttle in the palace gardens as the sun rose over Valoria Prime. She was a small woman, shorter even than Teho, with gray hair and calm eyes that had seen too much death. She walked toward the strange group that waited for her, a wounded Valori queen, a princess covered in battle marks, a human soldier who should have been dead 100 times over. Lieutenant Commander Kang, she said. You look terrible. Thank you, Admiral. She turned to Queen Alara. For a long moment, the two leaders studied each other. They had been enemies for 20 years. Their forces had killed countless thousands on both sides. Your message said you want peace, Yuna said finally. I want my people to survive, the Queen replied. I believe peace is the only way to make that happen. And what guarantee do I have that this is not a trick? You have my word. You have my daughter's word. The Queen gestured at Nalia. And you have the fact that your soldier risked everything to save us. He could have escaped. He could have let us die. Instead, he fought beside us. Yuna looked at Teho. Is that true? Yes. Admiral. Why? Teho thought about the question. He thought about all the conversations with Nalia, about Sorel's wonder at human survival, about the Queen's desperation and Torvak's hatred. Because they are not that different from us, he said finally. They are afraid. They are dying. They made terrible choices because they did not see another way. I wanted to show them that there is another way. Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. Let us talk about peace. 3 months passed. The ceasefire held. Human and Valori diplomats met on neutral ground, arguing and debating and slowly, painfully, building something new. There were setbacks. There were moments when war seemed certain to restart. But each time, voices of reason prevailed. On Earth, the news was met with suspicion. 20 years of war had built deep hatred. Many humans could not believe that the Valori truly wanted peace. Protests erupted in some colonies. Politicians gave angry speeches about trusting monsters, but Admiral Yuna spoke to the public. She told them about what she had seen on Valoria Prime, a dying people, a desperate queen, a human soldier who had changed everything through courage and compassion. Slowly, opinions began to shift. On Valoria Prime, the reconstruction continued. Torvak's damage was repaired. New leaders emerged to replace those who had followed the general into treason. Queen Alara, though weakened by her wounds, remained on the throne. Her daughter stood beside her, advising and supporting. And in the palace gardens, Teho recovered from his injuries. His broken ribs healed. The cuts and bruises faded. But something had changed inside him that would never fade. He had come to this world as a prisoner, expecting to die or be used. Instead, he had found something unexpected: understanding, connection, maybe even love. Nalia visited him every day. At first, they talked about politics, the negotiations, the treaties, the difficult process of building trust between former enemies. Then they talked about simpler things: favorite foods, childhood memories, dreams for the future. Then they stopped talking much at all. Sometimes they just walked through the gardens together, enjoying the strange alien flowers and the purple sky. The negotiations are almost complete, Nalia said one evening. They are offering you a chance to return to Earth. A hero's welcome, medals and parades. Teho nodded slowly. He had expected this moment. And what about the marriage? My mother has agreed that forced marriage was wrong. She apologized, genuinely apologized for threatening your colony. Nalia looked away. You are free, Kang Teho. No obligations. No requirements. You can go home. What do you want me to do? The question surprised her. What do I want? Yes. Not your mother. Not the diplomats. You. Nalia was silent for a long time. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and purple. In the distance, Human and Valori ships orbited peacefully together, a sight that would have been unthinkable a year ago. "I want you to stay," she said finally. "Not because of duty or treaties or genetic research. I want you to stay because when you are here, everything seems possible, because you see things differently, because you make me believe that we can actually survive this." She turned to face him. Her golden eyes were bright, with something that might have been hope or fear or both. "But I will not ask you," she continued. "I will not order you. That would make me no better than my mother was." Teho smiled. "You already asked me, just now." "That was not Nalia." He took her hands in his. Her skin was cool, her fingers long and delicate. "I have been thinking about this for weeks. I could go home. I could be a hero. Receive my medals. Spend the rest of my life telling stories about the time I survived Valoria Prime. That sounds nice. It sounds boring." He laughed softly. "Everything I did here, the risks I took, the fights I fought, I did not do them for medals. I did them because I believed in something. I believed that we could be better than war and hatred. I believed that understanding was stronger than fear. And now I want to stay and see if I was right." He squeezed her hands gently. "I want to help your scientists find a cure for your people. I want to help build the alliance between our species. I want to wake up every morning in a galaxy that is getting better, not worse." Nalia stared at him. "You are serious." "I am always serious. It is one of my many charming qualities." She laughed, a real laugh, warm and surprised. "You are the strangest creature I have ever met, Kang Tae-ho." "I try my best." They stood together as night fell over the palace. The stars emerged one by one, scattered across the darkness like diamonds on velvet. Somewhere out there, millions of humans and Valori were learning to live in peace. It would not be easy. There would be mistakes and conflicts and moments of doubt. But it was possible. That was the human gift, Tae-ho thought. Not strength or intelligence or technology, hope, the stubborn, irrational belief that tomorrow could be better than today. The refusal to accept that anything was impossible. "There is something else," Nalia said quietly. "What?" "The marriage. My mother says it is no longer required. But..." She hesitated. "Some of our people still believe in it. They see it as a symbol, a sign that humans and Valori can truly be united." "Are you proposing to me?" "I am asking if you would consider it. Eventually. When you are ready. If you are ever ready." She looked embarrassed. Something Tae-ho had never seen from her before. "I am doing this very badly." "You are doing fine." He pulled her closer. "Ask me properly." She took a deep breath. "Kang Tae-ho of Earth. Will you marry me? Not because of politics or genetics or threats, but because I want to wake up next to you every morning and argue about stupid things and build a life together. That is much better. Is that a yes?" He kissed her instead of answering. It was strange, her lips were cooler than a human's, her body taller and leaner. But it felt right. It felt like coming home to a place he had never been before. The wedding happened 6 months later. It was small, by royal standards, just a few hundred guests from both species. Admiral Yuna attended, smiling more than anyone had ever seen her smile. Sorel the scientist cried happy tears. Even Queen Alara seemed genuinely pleased. Human and Valori scientists worked together in laboratories across both civilizations. The first breakthroughs came within a year, not a cure, not yet, but promising treatments that slowed the genetic decay. For the first time in centuries, Valori children were born healthy and strong. And across the galaxy, other species took notice. For 10,000 years, the Valori had been conquerors feared and hated by all who knew them. But now, incredibly, they had been transformed by the smallest and youngest species in known space. Humans. Weak, fragile, short-lived humans who should never have survived their own planet. Humans who refused to give up, who found ways to win even when they should have lost, who answered hatred with understanding and threats with compassion. Perhaps, other species began to think, these humans were worth knowing. Perhaps they had something to offer beyond their strange resilience and stubborn hope. Perhaps the galaxy was entering a new age. Tejo and Nalia stood on their balcony one evening, watching ships from a dozen different species arrive for a diplomatic conference. Their hands were intertwined, one brown, one blue. "You changed everything," Nalia said. "One human prisoner, and you changed the entire galaxy." "I had help," he leaned against her. "And we are just getting started." She smiled and kissed his forehead. "Then let us see what tomorrow brings." Tomorrow brought many things: challenges and triumphs, losses and victories, new allies and new conflicts. But through it all, the alliance between humans and Valori endured, built not on force or fear, but on choice, on hope, on the simple belief that tomorrow could always be better than today. That was the human gift to the stars. And the stars, at last, were learning to accept it. The end.